Can you trust Kurzgesagt videos?
No. And ironically, the reason you can't trust them is that this video exists at all. Kurzgesagt, in a nutshell, has for me and many others defined what a great educational YouTube channel can be. With slick animations, compelling subject matter, they're almost criminally likable. They have good writing, interesting topics, and an adorable stylization that is hilariously juxtaposed with the serious topics that they tackle. And our story begins when I crossed paths with Philipp, their founder, while I was deep in the research process for one of my videos. Okay, so remember a few weeks ago when I said I was working on a big project?
Thanks for watching that video. That was sort of a mini coffee break. I'm in the middle of a big project right now, and I just wanted to get something out to you.
I've been researching pop science. Pop science is fundamentally taking a complicated idea and simplifying it for a lay audience. And I was particularly interested in where that can go wrong. One of the obvious downsides is that oversimplification can lead not just to less information, it can lead to misinformation. One example of this that I found was Johann Hari's TED Talk, Why Everything You Know About Addiction Is Wrong, and Kurzgesagt's adaptation, which they called Addiction. I found several problems with this piece. Some of the studies are disputed, and some of the video's claims are so oversimplified, it's downright misleading. I contacted both men by email hoping to learn how these videos came about, to explain to you how misinformation can occur. We'll get to Hari in a moment. Let's focus on Philipp. On February 2nd, I emailed him, I have some tough questions about the video on addiction that Kurzgesagt did. It's one of your most popular videos. I'm worried that some of the major claims in that video are vastly oversimplified, if not outright incorrect. Did Kurzgesagt conduct an independent fact-checking of Johann Hari's book before agreeing to this? Almost immediately, Philipp responded to me, very worried, and right up front said he didn't want to be quoted. And unfortunately, I agreed. Because of that, I won't be directly quoting him. What I will be doing is showing my emails to him and summarizing the exchange. I'm not happy with this compromise, but I can't let his actions be unchallenged. Everything, the lies, the manipulation, is in those emails. And the way you can know that these emails say what I say they say is that Philipp only needs to say the word. If he disputes this and wishes to go on the record, I'd be happy to release those emails. I have nothing to hide. Philipp responds on February 2nd. Essentially, he's not thrilled about the interview or video idea. He was worried that the video might be a call out. He basically says, hey, the addiction video wasn't perfect, but I feel it was good enough. And then he asks, what is your video all about? I share with him my idea and some of the questions and criticisms I had, and he replied to me that he would be interested in doing an interview, provided I wait. He was busy traveling and told me to wait till early March before we could do the interview. And March 3rd was the day I found out what Philipp had been really busy doing. Too busy to answer my questions. He had been busy making my video for me for his channel. He even did me the favor and interviewed himself by answering all my questions. Let's take a look. I asked him, did Kurzgesagt conduct an independent fact-checking of Johann Hari's book before agreeing to this?
Unfortunately, we did not reach out to scientists or do extra research on the papers that were the basis for the video's thesis.
Kurzgesagt, That was actually, I don't know if you know, that was one of the questions I asked you in my email. That's what I was going to actually interview you on. No worries. We still got some questions. I'm worried some of the major claims in that video are vastly oversimplified, if not outright incorrect.
We simplified an idea so much that it made a great story, but became distorting.
I actually have to ask you first before, I mean, that's how an interview works. You wait till I ask the questions. Please wait till I ask the question. We're going to talk about the nature of pop science. You know, that's what my video is all about. We can convince massive audiences of narratives and stories about the world that can sometimes be overly simplistic and wrong about the evidence.
We often look at creators on the internet for reliable information. We rely on the fact that they're careful and rigorous. The world is too complex for simple answers, and we don't want to be the ones giving them.
Kurzgesagt, stop it. Stop answering my questions. It's not funny anymore. I just wanted to interview you and get this out of the way. You've had this addiction video up like 4 years, so I just wanted to ask a few questions about it, if you don't mind. So I want to talk to you about your addiction video still being up.
So today, we deleted them.
That's why I'm making this video, to explain to you how this video kind of came about. I bet all of you guys thought, oh, Kurzgesagt releasing a really great video about how he's reflecting on his research. No, No, he's preempting all my research. He delayed me in order to stall and get ahead of criticism, which, like, I guess maybe once you hit over 5 million subs, you just feel like you can take stuff from smaller creators, because in a way, what's the risk? Even if they do say something, you're going to win public opinion because you just have more fans. But I gotta tell you, it's so frustrating being that smaller creator. I mean, this has been a story I've been working 2 months on, and I get promised an interview by someone who stalls me, only to have all my questions and a main part of the video just swept right from under me. It's so frustrating, especially for that to come from one of the biggest creators on YouTube, one of the most respected creators. Now, you might be wondering, isn't it possible that he was already planning to release this video on March 3rd before I reached out? Maybe it was all a coincidence. Well, let's take a look at some more evidence. The one thing that works in favor of this coincidence theory is that he addressed 2 of his bad videos instead of just the one. But this would make sense whether he stole my video idea or already had a video in the works. If you know 2 past videos are wrong and you decide that based on someone asking too many questions, you're going to delete one of them and spin the story, it only makes sense to delete the other. So this is just evidence that Kurzgesagt is smart. Besides this sliver of a silver lining, every other piece of evidence points against him. Firstly, he never once mentions to me that he had a video response in the works about the exact topic I was emailing him about. It'd be obvious to disclose that since it directly addresses not one, but several of the things I'm asking about. He could have said, hey, in 1 month, I've got the perfect video for you, so you don't have to waste a bunch of time waiting for an interview because I'm already going to address the topic. But there's an even bigger tell. In his emails with me, he seemed happy with the addiction video and didn't want to take it down. Essentially, he knew the video was incorrect, but he said he felt it was good enough to keep up anyways. Yet 1 month later, conveniently, he did take it down. Once he was sure of my intention to criticize it, he deletes it and acts like the whole time he just couldn't stomach the video staying up.
And these 2 videos don't make us proud. So today, we deleted them.
Also, he stalled my interview till March, and March 3rd is when he released his video. So by delaying me, he could be sure that his video would come out first. Additionally, Kurzgesagt tweeted that this video was a surprise video. I wonder who he was trying to surprise. Now, any of these things alone might be explained away in some miraculous confluence of unfortunate misunderstandings, but together they clearly show something else. This video wasn't inspired by self-reflection on responsible research. It was inspired to cover their ass. And what's disgusting is how well this has worked out for them. Look at how celebrated they are for coming out so transparently. And I think what I find the most distasteful is not them trying to get ahead of a story, but the way they act so self-righteous and like they're such good ethical researchers.
You can trust that every video we make is thoroughly researched and approved by different experts. You can trust that we know that we have biases and we try to overcome them. We want to move Kurzgesagt further towards the trustworthy end of the spectrum.
To parade around how responsible you are at a time when you're engaging in last-minute damage control is just, it doesn't scream trustworthy. So what should someone do if somebody reaches out with some criticisms? To see that, let's go back to Johan Hari, the journalist Kurzgesagt quoted in their video about addiction.
The addiction video was based on only one source that has amassed a lot of criticism over the years, that addiction is purely psychological and based on the life circumstances of the individual. This stance is still held by a number of addiction professionals, and we're not saying it's wrong, but a lot of others disagree, and it's not correct to present it as the truth.
But here's the thing, Johan Hari doesn't believe that addiction is only psychological. That was the unfortunate implication of a rushed TED Talk. That's what happens when you cram a 400-page book into less than 20 minutes. But if you look at the book the whole thing is based on, or any of the podcasts he's done, it's clear that he doesn't hold such a simplistic view.
This doesn't mean chemical hooks don't play some role. They do play a role. Talk about the reality of chemical hooks, if that's right. I think it's very important to understand in relation to opioids.
From that alone, we know that Johan Hari doesn't believe only in psychological addiction. Clearly, Kurzgesagt only ever heard the one TED Talk, animated it, and never even bothered to read his book. Even years later, while critically examining their older videos, they still never bothered to correct the record and say that Hari doesn't hold the simplistic views they're deleting their video over. Which brings us to the rather ironic conclusion.
No, wait, it's not what you think. This is a big misunderstanding. You've got to believe me.
They still haven't read the book. A book by the way, which says plain as day, but it would be absurd to say the chemicals play no role at all in, say, cigarette or crack addiction.
That addiction is purely psychological.
So how much is really due to the chemicals and how much is due to the social factors? What's the ratio? Hari, when I asked him what he thought about this idea that addiction is 100% psychological, says that this position isn't really held by anyone.
It would be a real shame if we ended up with an artificially polarized debate built around straw men. It's totally false to frame this debate as there are some people who believe addiction is all caused by the environment, and there's these other people who think addiction is all caused by chemical hooks. That's nonsense.
To put Hari in a loony category who believes something that no researcher believes,
That addiction is purely psychological.
all speaks to a lack of even surface level interrogation of Hari's ideas or addiction research. And that extends right up to the release of their last video,
which reflects rather poorly on the idea that they've since become great researchers who go back and forth between books and real scientists.
This stance is still held by a number of addiction professionals.
I've interviewed, I would say, most of the leading experts in this field. I've never met anyone who says addiction is purely environmental in all cases. That would be ludicrous. No one thinks that.
The reason I'm defending Hari so fiercely here is that while
Kurzgesagt exemplified shady research tactics, Hari couldn't have been more forthright. He interacted with me seriously when I pointed out some criticisms. He asked my permission to correct it in the next edition of his book, and that correction is currently listed with a citation publicly on his website, alongside 20 other corrections to his book. To contrast this, Kurzgesagt dodged all my hard questions till they could use my criticisms and story before I could, and they didn't even bother to cite their sources. And when they did cite their sources, did so in a way that castigated them with an extreme view that nobody seriously holds.
how to sum up this video. Philipp, founder of Kurzgesagt, is meticulous with his brand image. He portrays the channel as squeaky clean, self-aware, socially conscious, but lift the curtain, and it's a much different picture when you find out why they decided to come clean. When you look at the way they treat smaller YouTubers, and when you consider the fact that they waited 4 years to pull down their videos, only doing so at the last possible second to avoid criticism, which makes parts of their video incredibly hypocritical.
We want to move Kurzgesagt further towards the trustworthy end of the spectrum.
Here guys, fix that for you. Okay, that's it. That is my part in this sordid affair. Now that you have the full context, it's time to answer the question.
So, can you trust Kurzgesagt?
I think you can trust Kurzgesagt to do what is good for his channel. I think he'll do whatever makes him look good. But I don't think you can trust him to correct himself or take down incorrect videos without external pressure.
And I don't think you can trust him to read your research, and if he does read it, he might claim he thought of it himself.
Simply put, I don't think you can trust him to do the right thing when no one's watching. There will be no sponsor for this video. I did not do this for clout or success. I did it because I felt it was the right thing to do given what had happened. Given Kurzgesagt's incredible influence, this has been extremely risky for my professional career and future on YouTube. So please make sure people hear this story. I will be continuing to work on my pop science video, and I hope that when it is ready, despite part of it being spoiled, you will watch it anyways. Thank you.